right, welcome back to another episode of Bet GPT. This is episode 52, and Slade, today we are doing the MLB preview pod.
It's
We have,
it's our last Sunday without baseball till like November.
yeah, pretty crazy to think about. We have opening day and what is it, like 5 or 6 days? We're
4.
recording on 4 days. Yeah, we're
Yep.
recording on Sunday the 24th. So MLB is doing their usual stupid thing where they have Thursday games and then there's nothing Friday. Or is there a couple games Friday? I don't know what it is, but then Saturday everyone's back up and we have the full slate of games. So just
I was at the grocery store this morning. There was a man in a full Kansas City Royals jumpsuit, like a retro jumpsuit. I was like, okay, I see you.
I saw a list yesterday that had Bobby Witt Jr. is one of the league's most underrated players. I'm not sure who's underrating him. I think he may just be labeled as underrated because he is a third year player now.
Yeah, because nobody's ever watched him play live. They just see his stats and they're like, it's pretty good.
Yeah, hey, he's got some potential. So speaking of potential, we're going to be having a ton of talk here on the AL and NL Rookie of the Years as well as other awards. But basically what we want to do today is talk strictly baseball. So we want this podcast to be timeless, if you will. So if you're listening, like I said, today's March 24th. I'd say this pod is probably good up until, halfway through April, if not all of April, because FanDuel, DraftKings, these bigger books, they do a good job of keeping lines up. So, after every game or every day's slate of games, you can go in and bet, will a team make the playoffs? What's their over-under? Awards markets will always be up. So that's the nice thing is, we try to get good numbers early in the season. And if you want to hedge off later in the year or bet more later in the year at a better number or vice versa. So just plenty of ways to kind of go about this. So our plan for today was we are going to talk about each division, whether we have a lot to say about a team or not. I guess, we'll see when it comes to them, but we just want to talk about value, talk about who we think is gonna do well, who's gonna do poorly this year, and then towards the end of the pod, we'll be talking futures. We have quite a few plays where we got really, really good numbers that we can't necessarily, give out as official plays. If you can shop around and find prices similar to ours, that's great. I would highly recommend that. But we do have some plays that are still at market price that we still love, and those will be official six-pack plays. So we normally start the show with those, but today we'll be wrapping up the show with the six-pack plays just so we make sure we get to all the content we want to get to. And yeah, Slade, did I miss anything? You ready to get into it?
No, I'm ready. Baseball is my favorite time of year. I think football is our favorite to watch and bet on, but I think baseball just being with like summertime and having it every single day and like following your team. It's a very regional sport. Like we're not going to sit here and pretend like we follow, what the Detroit Tigers are doing on a daily basis, but like everybody who follows their team, it's like a 6-month long Netflix show in some ways. So it's kind of what I love about it, on top of it being like the best time of year.
Yep, definitely. Speaking of the Tigers, I went to college with this kid, and he told me he watched every single Detroit Tigers game. And, I watched a lot of baseball, and I was like, yeah, I watched, most of the Guardians games, whatever year it was, like 2017. And he's like, no, really, like, I'll go home and I watch, like, the full replay of every single game. So mad props to people who have the MLB package and are watching every single inning of every team. Hopefully you are listening to the pod because we need some more diehards in the sport of baseball. I feel like it's making a little bit of a comeback. MLB still does some really stupid shit, like play opening games in Korea
At 2 a.m. Yeah.
At 2 a.m. Yeah, you could have had it at any other time, but I guess we can start there real quick. Dodgers and Padres, 2-game sample size. They split 1-1. Dodgers offense looks as advertised. I was listening to someone from Beeson talk the other day. Or no, actually it was Will Hill, friend of the pod, Will Hill. He was talking about maybe the Dodgers are a team where their money line is going to be so expensive throughout the year, you don't want to bet. But if they're down 2 or 3 runs to start the game because their pitching isn't great, maybe just hammer the live line if you can get like a Dodgers, plus 150 down a couple runs.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how Vegas treats the Dodgers all year long because I don't know if we've seen a team that on paper for at least a regular season is like this big of a juggernaut from like top to bottom of their lineup. So it'll be interesting to see like are you even going to get good juice in that situation? I could honestly see them being like down 2-3 runs and it's like even money.
And guess what? If that's the case, if you think there's way too much
Yeah, you go the other way.
you go the other way, exactly. So yeah, just something to think about. But I guess before we get into the NL, let's start with
I'll
the
tell you what,
AL.
I actually already faded the
Yeah,
Dodgers. Game
you already.
2, I took the over. I took the over on Yamamoto runs, and I took the Padres money line. So I woke up to some good news on was it like Wednesday morning?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like that reminds me of when I would during COVID and I bet the KBO or whatever the Japanese league is, and I'd I
The
there was
Sharks, whatever.
there was a time in my life where I only did this once, but I bet $100. I think it was on like the Samsung Lions to beat the Kawoom Giants or whatever it is. I don't even know, but I won the bet, and then I realized if I keep this up, I will have a betting problem. So that did not
Yeah.
happen anymore. But odd times. Okay, let's start in the AL. Let's start with the AL East. So I can just read. I guess what we'll do here is I'll just read off the division odds, and then we'll kind of just talk about it. Yankees are plus 165, Orioles plus 200, Blue Jays plus 380, Rays plus 550, and Red Sox plus 1900. Who do you like to win this division first and foremost?
I'm on the Orioles. I did play the Orioles like a few weeks ago. I know last year and if you go back to our episodes from like September, October, I was not very bullish on the Orioles at all. I said I thought they were not going to make a run in the playoffs. They didn't. I just thought they were a little young and they're a year away. But I could see them still being young and maybe a year away from like World Series contention. But I could see them being like a really good regular season team again. Um, they also brought in Corbin Burns. That's a veteran ace. That's somebody who I think has a chance to win the Cy Young. He's actually the Vegas favorite for the Cy Young in the American League at like 8-1, 9-1 range. Um, but then also they just have by far the best farm system. Obviously, those guys have to hit; they have to prove it. That's kind of why there's the risk, and that's why they're not the favorites. I'd say is because the bust possibility with some of these bigger names. Um, but you're going to need like a Grayson Rodriguez and um, who's that Bradish and some of those guys to keep developing and keep getting better, and then you can bring in the Jackson Holidays and um, can't remember his other Colton something, Kirchstad.
Colton Cowser, yeah,
Yeah, cows. Yeah, it's like they just have
yeah.
like all these guys that are coming up. But again, not all of them are going to pan out. But if even like half of them hit, especially with the Garrett Cole injury for the Yankees, and I'm sure we'll get to that in a second. But I think that makes them the favorite in my eyes. And so even at plus 200, I don't hate it.
Yeah, I agree. I would be leaning the Orioles here as well. I guess my only hesitation though is their closers, Craig Kimbrell, who
Yeah.
is well past his prime. I still think he can have those moments where he can shut things down, but if I'm up 1 run and Craig Kimbrell's coming in, I'm not feeling good. It's kind of like shades of how our oldest Chapman's been the last couple years. You saw him with the Rangers last year, came in, he got the job done most of the time, but he wasn't pitching the ninth anymore. He was in the seventh, eighth inning, kind of being the setup man. I think that suits Kimbrel a little bit better, but they don't really have a choice. Felix
Yeah.
Bautista, reliever of the year last year, messed his elbow up, so he's out for the whole 2024 season. You hate to see that. He was, as dominant as it gets. So, kind of interested to see how they do in like maybe like what we can kind of do is maybe through a quarter or half the year we can kind of check in on how these teams are doing in 1 run games because I think that's a pretty
Hmm.
good indicator of bullpen success and whatnot. So that's just one hesitation there. But I mean, their competition. I don't necessarily think the Red Sox have a chance this year. They lost Giolito. They have no pitching. I have their starting pitching as Brian Bello, Nick Pivetta, Cutter Crawford, Tanner Huck, and Garrett Whitlock. I don't know how
The Red
that.
Sox are the only team in that list that if they won it, I would be genuinely surprised. Like if the Rays won, would anyone actually be like, "Holy crap, the Rays won"? No, they always are. There's like it's funny because like in Vegas, they always have like a Yankees tax, and then like whatever the opposite of that is for the Rays. Like even last year going in, I think if you go and look up the 2023 odds, I think the Yankees were the favorites last year, and they weren't even good. And then the
Well,
Rays, I don't think they ended up holding on, but I'm not high on the Rays this year. They obviously lost Glass now. Um, I just I just think this might be the year that they actually are like kind of what we expect, and they can't overachieve
yeah.
every year.
No, I completely agree.
Franco's gone for a whole year now.
Yes, they literally like just keep like pulling these random dudes from nowhere who are playing great. I mean, you saw the Indians give up, or excuse me, the Guardians give up Yandy Diaz for practically for free, and now he's an all-star, great player. And like you said, they lost Franco. That's a guy who you basically were going to build your franchise around for like the next 10, 12 years, and he may never play again.
And he's
It's hard.
making more money than your franchise has probably ever given out in contracts by like 10 times 10. So it's like
Yeah,
that ownership group who doesn't make very much money is like the smallest probably payroll in the league ever going to feel comfortable giving out cash again that you just I don't know. That's more of a long-term view or a macro view, but um I guess with the Yankees, I think they're better than last year. I don't think there's even with Garrett Cole missing 2 months, I still like them more than I did last year. I never understood them last year because I think a lot of that was just like writing off the Judge insane 2022 season. And I mean, he was really, really good when healthy last year. And even with Garrett, and you got to remember, Garrett Cole was unbelievable last year, and they still weren't good. They just didn't have any pitching behind
yeah.
them. I didn't really buy into the Carlos Rodon move. I don't think that's going to be great. I think Marcus Stroman. I think we kind of know what he is. You and I watched way too much of him over the last
Yeah.
2 years. I think they're a playoff team. I have them as like probably finishing second. I just don't think they're as good top to bottom as the Orioles right now.
So I actually don't think they're a playoff team unless they sign Jordan Montgomery. So he's kind of just sitting out there waiting for someone to grab him. Um, could you see the Yankees making that move? Because like you
Yeah,
said, Garrett Cole's out 2 months.
he
Yeah.
he paid
So
he played for the Yankees for like 2-3 years, and that was only like 2 years ago. So they're familiar
yeah.
with him, and I know they've been in contact.
Yeah, so they need him because they're projected starters: Nestor Cortez, Rodon, Stroman, Clark Schmidt, Clayton Beater. I've never even heard of that last name, but their lineup. Obviously, they have Soto, Judge, Rizzo, Glaber, Stanton. Like that's pretty solid. And where they've been lately is they've relied so much on Stanton for offense, whereas now they can shift him down the lineup. There's less pressure. They can afford an 0 for 4 game from him, I guess, if you will. But like those games where Stanton does go off, that is going to be a tough team to beat. Can he actually do it? I don't know. Maybe they can give him more off days now. Um, but what I really wanted to touch on here was I think the Aaron Judge injury from last year is kind of going a little unnoticed. People aren't talking about it enough. So this is from Sports Illustrated last week. This quote says, "Beyond the abdomen and oblique ailments, Judge's toe is still something he will need to manage regularly moving forward after tearing a ligament last season that forced him to miss 42 games." So as you remember, he was going for like a home run,
Yeah,
trying to catch this pop fly, and it was just like a freak thing. He hit a weird part in the fence, so
yeah.
obviously not his fault. It sucks. But then this quote continues to say, "It will require constant maintenance for the rest of his career."
The last
That
time we
seems like
heard that
that seems
was
like a
Mike
big
Trout.
deal.
Yeah, the last time I heard that was
Yeah,
Mike Trout in his back, and Mike Trout hasn't played more than like 100 games since like 2019.
yeah. So that's just something I want to keep an eye on because if Judge, if he misses 50 games this year, good luck. And
That
if they aren't doing bad, Juan Soto's only in a 1 year deal. Maybe he's not happy and he ends up leaving. I think they ultimately retain him, but this is a big season for them. That's why I think they need Montgomery. They
That's why
need some
I'm
more
rooting on their
talent.
downfall, because I want Juan Soto to hit free agency and I want the Cubs to come calling. But there is some crazy like stats about like when Judge is in the lineup versus when he's not. I think there's obviously like the pitching around other guys in the lineup factor. I think it kind of coincided with Anthony Rizzo's injury as well. You're hoping Anthony Volpe improves from his rookie season. So like there is room for improvement with this team. I think they added Alex Verdugo as well. Like they've got enough names. It's like they just got to stay healthy and hope that Garrett Cole comes back and is himself, because obviously he's if he's not the most important player, he's second. So you got to get him back. I will say long term, I don't love where the Yankees are. I think that's kind of what you were alluding to, because I don't know. I would say it's like a 50-50. Soto's on the team next year. And then I'd also throw in Cole's over 30, Judge is over 30, Stanton's obviously over 30, Rizzo's over 30. Like their farm system isn't top 5 or anything. They always will have the money, but they're kind of
They have the money,
going
but
all in.
they don't spend it like they used to. It's a little bit different. I think that can change once they get Soto, but they passed on guys like Corey Seager. They ended up retaining Judge, which was huge. But it seems like they're always in talks. They probably could have tried a little bit harder for Ohtani. I don't think they would have got him, but they kind of just opted out of that sweepstakes as well. So
yeah, I don't think Yamamoto wanted to go there either. But I guess they did pay a ton to Carlos Rodon, and he's just sucked. So there is that side of it too.
yeah. The only other team in the division we didn't talk about was the Blue Jays. To me, that's kind of the same old team. They replaced Chapman with a 39-year-old Justin Turner, which is
I
not a
think,
slight to him.
yeah,
He played well last year, but his time is running out there. I think they're just going to be that team who's like on the cusp of making the wild card and
yeah.
ultimately won't
They're going to
do
be.
anything with
I
it.
just in my head view them the same. I've viewed them the last 2 years. They're going to win like 90-ish games, and Gossman will be really good. I think you're going to see a slight improvement from Vladdy Guerrero Jr. Bichette's really good. And then a year from now, we're talking about, are they going to extend these guys right before the postseason? Everyone will be like, "Oh, the Blue Jays are a sleeper team because they've got an ace and they've got all these guys in the lap and a home field advantage." And then they'll get to the postseason and they'll lose like they always do in the first round.
No, yeah, exactly. But they'll always have that like 6-hour period where they had Ohtani. So
And they'll
there's like
always have the Jose Bautista home run.
yeah, exactly. My favorite part of the MLB offseason was when there was that rumor that there was like this 75 table
Oh yeah,
reservation at some fancy sushi place. Everyone's like, "We're getting Ohtani," and then it's like, no, that didn't
it was
happen.
like
So
Kikuchi or whatever, like the reliever. He like rented it out for his wife's birthday.
it's good stuff. That's good stuff. Yeah, so that's that. Those are our thoughts on the AL East. We both prefer the Orioles. Maybe be fading the Yankees. Keep an eye on the injuries. Keep an eye on if they get Montgomery. If they don't get Montgomery, I probably will be betting them to miss the playoffs. But with the Yankees tax, I think you can probably still get a good number throughout the whole year. So no rush on that at all. Moving to the AL Central. So odds here. What do we got? The Twins are the favorites. They're sitting at -125. Guardians +330. Tigers +360. And then a huge drop. Royals +950. And when I was writing my notes, I forgot the White Sox were even in the MLB, which is pretty bad on my part. But they're 50-1 to win a division.
I was gonna
So
say if when we put the timestamps on the pod, if people skip through the AL Central shit, I don't even blame them, because it's the worst division. It's boring. It's all small markets. I know there's a few people in our fantasy league that are like Twins fans. I just don't know how you can do it and be like super excited every year. It's a bunch of bad teams playing each other for nothing. It's like the Big Ten West of baseball. It's just gross. It's always cold weather, empty ballparks. I just can't stand watching it.
yep. Yeah. So that is pretty accurate. These teams where like the Twins, if they want maybe like a 2 seed in the playoffs if they do have a good season. It is possible only because they could go like 15-2 against the White Sox and then a great record against the Royals and like all that good stuff. Because I remember the Guardians a few years ago, they lost like one game against the Tigers over like 2 seasons or something like that. So
Yeah,
that's kind of their best bet if they want to make a deep run. But chances are most teams will the division leader could have 80, 6 wins, and everyone else will be out of the playoffs. But I do like this Guardians team at plus 330. I know I could be a
yeah,
little biased just because my background, but they do really have a good pitching staff. They have Shane Bieber, Tristan McKenzie, Tanner Bybee, Logan Allen. They brought Carlos Carrasco back, which I think is a cool story. But just like Bieber's injury last year kind of forced them to have all these young guys step up. And so that was kind of their learning period. And now I think they're kind of ready. But their offense just is not, at MLB level, unfortunately. So they're going to have to win a lot of low
yeah,
scoring games. They do have Emmanuel Clase. We'll see if he ends up
yeah.
getting traded at the deadline. But
I was gonna say
I don't know.
they do have a couple prospects that are pretty good, like top 25 ish offensive prospects, but those are just kind of lottery tickets. Um, I think Jose Ramirez is maybe the most underrated player of this generation. I think I do have an MVP future on him, 20-1. He's 20-1 for a reason, partially because of his team. Obviously, if he was on the Yankees or something, he'd be in the top 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But I do kind of have him as a long shot because if the Guardians do make the playoffs, he's gonna have to have an unreal season because like yeah, they always have pretty good pitching, but like I said, he'd have to carry the load on a pretty bad offense, on a young offense. Um, but yeah, I think he can have a big year. He's just consistent every single year. So I have the Guardians here as well. But I will say the trendy pick in the league, like if you look at like these articles being written and some of the analytics nerds and stuff, they really like the Tigers. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah. And why do they like him? Do they have some sort of stud pitcher or something?
They have a bunch of young kids that are coming up, and a couple that are like debuting. Like Spencer Torkelson has kind of struggled since he's came up, and like for whatever reason, people love his home run over prop.
Really?
And obviously, we like Scooble, the
That's what I
pitcher.
tried. That's why I changed my voice. I tried setting you up and asking you if there was some young player, and the answer is
Yeah,
yes. It's Tariq Skubal, AL Cy Young. The
yeah.
guy is throwing heat. He's throwing like 99 right now. Any starter that's touching almost 100, like those. If you can
Y-
consistently do that, you're gonna
Your
have
boy Colt Keith is on the Tigers, right?
Colt Keith. Yeah, rookie of the year play. We can talk about that a little
Um,
later. So
the
a lot,
former
a lot
number
of good
two
young
overall,
talent.
the former number two overall prospect got called up like a year and a half ago, and he like had like a year-ending injury. So if I think his last name's is it Green or something like that. I'll figure it out here in a second. But if he ends up being like one of the players like everyone thinks he's going to be, like their offense can take a huge step forward.
Yeah, you're talking about Riley Green. He's
Yes,
23. He was fifth
yes,
overall in the 2019 draft. Yeah.
yeah. He was like number
So,
two overall prospect when he debuted, and then he got hurt, and we haven't really seen him. But this is like his this is his year to kind of like be the guy and like have a full time job.
yeah. No, yeah, I agree. And these are definitely by far my least amount of notes for this division. For the Kansas City Royals, all I have here is Cole Reagans.
Yeah.
He is another AL Cy Young pick of mine. I think he's around 25-1. Or I got him at 25-1. He's down to like 15-1. So a lot of steam there. They got him pitching, but that's about it. They have one of the most underrated players in the league, Bobby Witt Jr., um, who seemingly came out of nowhere. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think this division is really going to run through the Twins, and then we'll see if the Guardians or Tigers can kind of pull something out. The Twins, they have by far the best hitting. They got Royce Lewis, who was great last year, had a breakout year. They still have Correa. They got
Buxton will be
Carlos
on the IL.
Santana. Yeah, I have in my notes. Buxton is going to be amazing this year, and then parentheses for about 20 games.
Yeah.
So you you kind of have to hope those 20 games are in the playoffs, but normally he does not make it that far,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
They do have probably maybe I don't know if I would say he's maybe been the most consistent pitcher in the division for a few years is Pablo Lopez.
Yeah.
Um, he's been pretty good. He had a 3.86 ERA for his career. So
I
maybe
like Joe Ryan too. So they
yeah.
got two good guys.
So I think the odds are probably pretty fair there. Like they have a floor that I don't think these other teams have. Like if the bottom fell out of the Guardians, would I feel that dumb if the Guardians ended up winning like 73 games? Not really. But I just
Yeah.
there's not really an upside with the Twins. Like their upside is they're the same team as last year, minus like Kepler and a couple of those other guys that left, but that just like Correa has a better year.
Yeah. No, I agree. The only other team here, Chicago White Sox. What to say about the White Sox? So one of our favorite Twitter follows at Shy Sox fan Mike. Apparently he works for sportsmockery.com. I'm on his Twitter right now. He
No.
wrote an article on Michael Kopech moving to the bullpen may have saved his career, and that is not an exaggeration.
Ugh.
Yeah, you move into the bullpen. That's cool. Here's their starting rotation: Garrett Crockett, Eric Fetty, Mike Soroka, Chris Flex, and Nick Nastrini. They
Our
are going to be absolute garbage.
our friend Mike Honcho just texted me and he said, can you tell Mike to unfollow him or unblock him on Twitter?
Yeah, yeah. He's been Shy Sox fan. Mike's been known to throw some blocks out there pretty easily. We can. I'm trying. I've asked him to come on the pod before. I'm not sure how it would go. He
I
has
can't
not
even
gotten
picture
back to
his
me.
voice. I feel like he's not even a human. He's like a bot.
It's just AI generated.
Just him and his fictional grandpa.
Yep. So yeah, if you're ever bored, if you ever see the White Sox get totally pummeled, just go to his Twitter at Shy Sox fan Mike and you get a good laugh.
Yeah, what you
But
need to know about the White Sox this year, their whole thing is they had really bad team chemistry last year, and so their front office can't stop talking about like culture and like getting like veteran culture and the will to win, which is like their kind of slogan. It's all cringe. Like they basically blamed all their disappointment on Tim Anderson, Yasmani Grandal, Lance Lynn, some dude in the bullpen, the guy who fell asleep in the bullpen last year during a
oh
game.
yeah,
Like their culture did suck, but they're blaming it on all those guys. I don't know. I guess there's still hope for Eloy and who's that third baseman? Why am I drawing a
uh,
blank? Former
for the
top
White
prospect.
Sox.
Yeah, former Red Sox prospect. He came over in that
Oh,
trade.
Moncada.
Moncada, like those guys, I guess still have potential, but their careers look like it's not going well, and I don't know if it'll turn around. But
They're
really,
just a team. They're a team on paper you want to bet like, oh, this guy could hit 40 home runs if things go right. And like
and it
they have like
never
three of
does.
those guys and none of them never do.
Yeah, the
So,
only guy in the team you can actually trust is Luis Robert Jr. in center, and then they have a prospect named Colson Montgomery. Which one? I think that's an awesome shortstop name, Colson
that,
Montgomery.
that
He's
is
very
cool.
smooth. He's like a top 10 prospect. He's expected to debut sometime this year. Um, but I mean, again, he's like 21 years old, so he's not going to change the 2024 White Sox
Um,
season. That's just like something you're holding on to if you're a White Sox fan listening to this. Otherwise, just go back and listen to our pod from like September where we just destroyed you guys because that's all still valid today.
that was one of our best moments in
Yeah,
that
that's one of my
GPT.
favorite
Yeah.
podcast memories was that
Yeah.
episode.
Yep. Yeah, so AL Central not too exciting, but the AL West, moving on to them, pretty exciting. They have obviously the defending champs, the Texas Rangers, so we can start there. They have two young studs and Wyatt Langford, and then Evan Carter, they're both eligible for Rookie of the Year this year. Even though Carter was like hitting in the 3 spot for them all throughout the playoff run, which is a pretty cool story. They have Adolis Garcia, Semyon, Corey Seager, obviously. They have Jung and Jared Walsh. So their order, their batting order, like there is not a lot of easy outs there. They're going to be very tough to beat. But, they also, I'm not a huge believer in their starting rotation. They have Eovaldi, John Gray, Andrew Heaney, Dave Dunning. They're obviously missing DeGrom. Scherzer has a herniated disc. It's going to take time for him to come back. I feel like they're just going to want him to come back maybe for the playoffs or the run leading up to it. But I mean, he was 0 for 1 with an ERA of 6.52 in 3 appearances in the 2023 postseason. So I don't know how much you can actually expect from him. They could really use a player like DeGrom, but unfortunately, he's out for the whole year yet again. So you hate to see that. But I think you think the Rangers are going to take a step back.
Yeah, I was going to kind of set it up by saying all these really nice compliments about the Rangers. They won the World Series. They have two of like the top 3 or 4 rookie of the year candidates. You and I love Wyatt Langford. We think he's going to be a stud. I think he's going to be a future all-star. But yeah, I'm on the under 89.5 wins. Um, Before people think I'm being like kind of hot takey, you got to keep in mind that division has some really good teams in it. It has the Astros, who have like the second or third best World Series odds. They're like, I think like 8-1 or 7-1, somewhere in that range. And then you also have the Seattle Mariners, who probably have the best rotation in that division. You have 3 guys who you probably want to put up against anybody. And yeah, their offense isn't as great as some of those other ones. They have, Julio Rodriguez, but I guess I like the Astros in that division. I also have a World Series future on them at plus 750. Um, they have they have the veteran experience. They have the high upside MVP guys like Yordan Alvarez. The power from the left side is huge in the playoffs. That's why Corey Seager was incredible. You need that big left-handed bat in the playoffs. They have that. They have the starting pitching. Verlander's back, obviously. Um, he just needs to be good for the postseason, and then also you added Josh Hader to the back end of that bullpen to replace Hector Neris. So I think they probably could be better. Tucker is, an MVP caliber player. I don't think he's going to win, but he's like in the top 5-6 odds in a lot of places. So um, there's really not a weakness in their lineup. I would put them, maybe top 2 or 3 overall. Maybe not Dodgers level or Braves, but I mean those are the top 3 offenses, I think.
Yeah, your point of Kyle Tucker, I do think he's going to have a great year, but maybe the best way to attack him is most RBIs, especially if they're pitching around Alvarez. As long as he stays healthy, there should be a lot of runners in scoring position opportunities for Tucker to knock them in. But the AL West odds, so they're Astros are minus 115, Rangers plus 210, Mariners plus 300, and then a huge drop off. Angels 45-1, and the Oakland A's 2,500 or 250-1. So in my notes, just starting from the bottom here, I have the LA Angels are a sorry ass baseball team, and the Oakland
Yep.
Athletics are somehow even worse. So basically, cross both those teams off. Mike Trout, I feel bad for the guy. He wasn't even relevant when he was good because he was on the Angels, and then they had like the year and a half stretch with Ohtani, or 2 years, where it's like, okay, well, these guys are both world class players. Like, they could make a run in the playoffs. Never happened. Never even sniffed the playoffs. They made that horrendous mistake last year of holding on to Ohtani, set the team back. They even traded for guys. Just awful team management. I don't know if they were doing that as a respect to Ohtani, but he just left anyway. So congrats on being nice to Ohtani for 2 months. I don't Yeah, so anyway, the Mariners though, um, like you said, they have 3 good pitchers: Luis Castillo, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby. I think those guys can win you any playoff series, but I think the Astros are ultimately the favorite, with Alvarez, Bregman, Tucker, and then their pitching staff: Valdez, Christian Javier, and Hunter Brown. So I am an Astros guy. Unfortunately, I don't like the team, but I do think they ultimately win that division.
Yeah, I think you can get. I think the because the Rangers won the World Series, they're probably getting a couple extra wins on that total that they probably don't deserve. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, 89.5. That's still a really good team. Basically they'd have to win 90 games in maybe the toughest or second toughest division in the sport. There's only so many games you can play against the Angels and um, the A's.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Yep. So that's kind of putting a bow on the AL. We can shift over to the NL now. So a lot of the Cubs listeners in here, this is a little bit more relevant, and probably I guess what you should listen a little more closer to is the Cubs. We play in a lot of teams, we talk about here. So let's start with the NL. What did the NL? Why am I blanking here? Is it the NL
NL
East?
East.
Yeah, the NL East. So the Braves minus 280, Phillies plus 280, Mets 13-1, Marlins 35-1, and Nationals 120-1. I think we'll both be on the Braves here. I don't hate the Phillies at plus 280 though. I still think the Phillies are a pretty
That's really
solid
your
team.
only other alternative option. I can't see a world where the other three teams get the job done. I think there's going to be two playoff teams from this division. That's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Because especially with how the NL Central is, I just don't see where the other spots would come from otherwise. But I think Vegas is right on the money with this.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the Braves, they are, not to get ahead of myself, but I think they are better than the Dodgers just because the Dodgers are lacking a little bit of pitching. You have Spencer Strider, who's, I don't think he's given up a run the whole spring training. He's got the best odds, around plus 450 to win the NL Cy Young. He added a curveball this offseason. And then, just go into their lineup: Acuna, Albies, Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Ozuna, Harris, Sean Murphy, Orlando Arcia, and then their ninth hitter's Jared Kelenic, who is a former top
Potential.
prospect for the
Yeah.
for the Mariners. He kind of just needed a fresh start, so I think that's good for both the Mariners and him. But
Yeah.
I think someone I really want to talk about here is Michael Harris. He was the NL Rookie of the Year 2 years ago. Struggled for a lot of last year. They moved him to the 9 slot. I think they even optioned him down for some time. I could be wrong on that. I have to double check. But basically, I think he's going to come back with a vengeance this year, and I think it's possible that he does something a little crazy. I actually took him to win MVP at 150-1. I'm not saying that's actually going to happen, but I could see him getting down in like the 10-1 range if he's really if he really steps up and plays to his potential. But I do think the Braves kind of run away with this and just beat up on the Marlins and Nationals and Mets.
Yeah, I really like this Braves team. I mean, they were the best team last year in the regular season, so kind of makes sense. Strider's having the best spring training of like anybody in a number of years. I got him for the Cy Young at plus 550. It's down to plus 450. His strikeout numbers are just absurd. Um, I don't know. I could definitely see them making a move at the deadline. They usually keep their payroll pretty flexible for those midseason moves. So if they have a hole, it'd probably be something like the bullpen or back end starter. 'Cause they have the hard parts covered already. They have the ace. They have the number two. They have their best players in their lineup. We've seen them win a World Series without Acuna. He's the favorite for the NL right now at what, plus 500 ish. Um, so I when I look at like the NL odds and I see the Dodgers are like 3-1 to win the World Series. I'm sorry, but no team in baseball is 3-1, even if the playoffs started tomorrow and the Dodgers were completely healthy. There's no team that's 3-1 because that would have been the Braves last year, where they were like 100 some wins and they still didn't win the World Series. So I don't know. I would not bet any baseball team in March on a 3-1 to win a World Series. So I agree with you. I like the Braves. Braves at 6-1 is a lot better value than the Dodgers at 3-1.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And the team in the division that's going to ultimately beat the Dodgers in the playoffs and will have America celebrating is going to be the Phillies. The Dodgers do not want to play the Phillies. Obviously, they don't want to play the
No,
Braves either, but they do not want to play the Phillies. They have Wheeler and Nola. Those guys can do their best to shut that lineup down. And they got your boy Schwarber, who
full year
is
Harper.
full year Harper. Yeah, I know they have Trey Turner coming back, which if you remember last year, the World
Yeah,
Baseball Classic, he was amazing. Hit that grand slam. I think I bet a little on him, or at least talked about it, to win NL MVP, and then he just had a very, very rough year. I can't imagine that happens again. I think that was a one-off thing, so he should have a solid year. And yeah, I think this Phillies team, I think they're going to win the division, because I think that Braves are going to win close to 100 games, but they'll be in that 92, 93, 94 range, and they're going to be a very tough out come October.
Yes, I also have Schwarber to most home runs at plus 850. I thought that was good value. It's like the fifth highest. I think he's finished like second, like multiple times. And one of those years was like Judge when he went nuts and won the MVP. He has injury risk of his own, but I mean, I don't know. He's also one of my favorite players, so I am biased on that play. So I'm not giving it out as like a 6-pack thing, but I do have a ticket on Kyle Schwarber to lead the league in homers. He can roll out of bed and hit 40. So
How many home runs do you think the league leader is going to have this year? Because Schwarber's to hit 50 plus this year, it's plus 400, but to lead the league, you said he's around plus 800.
yeah, that's a good question. I mean, usually the last few years you've needed 50.
Yeah. So last year, Matt Olson had 54, Schwarber had 47, Alonso had 46, and then the year before,
That was Judge.
that was the Judge year. Yeah. So Judge had 62, Schwarber had 46, Trout had 40.
So Schwarber's had like what 46 2 years in a row.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the year before, Salvador Perez had 48, Vlad Jr. 48. So not a lot of people are hitting that 50 mark. It sounds like you have much better value kind of betting on someone to lead the league and hope that maybe there's some injuries or someone struggles for a month or two. Because 50 plus, you're really going to have a special season,
And
especially
what's
because a lot of the pitchers are so good nowadays. There's not
Yeah,
a lot of.
and Aaron Judge's season total line is like 43 or 44 and a half. So, I mean, if Schwarber, I mean, let's say he hits 46 again, that means that, I don't know. I mean, Vegas basically thinks that Judge is going to hit 43, 44. I mean, I guess a lot of this is just going to come down to health because Alonso's had missed a season with injuries and he's 50-ish a year too. I don't know. That was mainly just a fun play for me, something to track all season long. I love shore bombs. It's one of the beautiful things in the game is a shore bomb. So
That my favorite thing about baseball is just like going down rabbit holes on Baseball Reference or just finding these random stats. So before we move on to the NL Central, this will be a good Cubs transition here. The 2021 MLB leaders for batting average, third on the list is Frank Schwindel at 326. Was that back when he was on the A's?
what year was that?
2021.
No, that was with the Cubs, but he didn't
That
play a full
was?
season. So I don't know if he was
Okay.
eligible for like actually winning the batting title, but that was the year when like, remember Dom was just going nuts about Frank the Tank and he was
Yeah,
drinking
20
beers out in Wrigley.
he had 239 at bats through only
Yeah.
56 games. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Basically, they traded Rizzo and replaced him with Schwindel. And for 59 games, Schwindel was 2 times as good as Rizzo.
Yeah.
and then water found its level in 2022, and he's in like Japan. So, and I
Hey,
don't know if you saw this,
it
but
was
the Cubs and the Dodgers are playing in Japan opening week next year.
so we're going.
So bet GPT to Tokyo.
That would be a lot of fun. We're gonna have to take some PTO, as unfortunately that game is gonna be on a random Tuesday or something
Yeah.
stupid. So we'll get that figured out. We'll have Shota Imanaga. We'll be sitting with his family
Sia
behind the first.
Suzuki and yep.
Yeah. So Cubs. Obviously, this is a pro Cubs podcast. We'll be talking about the Cubs quite a bit. But I guess if we can kind of condense it down here, what are your takes on this year? What are your expectations? And kind of how do you think this division is going to play out? The Cardinals are plus 150, Cubs plus 200, Reds plus 400, Brewers plus 700, and Pirates 12 to 1.
There's nothing that surprises me more than the love the Cardinals have gotten this offseason. I've listened to a lot of Cardinals podcasts, and their selling point is this lineup has a ton of potential, and I agree it does. It's got Goldschmidt, it's got Arenado. You still have like Edmund and what's that guy's name? Otani's buddy or Yamamoto's buddy.
Yeah,
Newt Bar,
New Bar, yeah. They got
and then
Jordan
Jordan
Walker, young
Walker.
talent. Mason Wynn, another
He's supposed to
prospect.
be super fast and great glove, but like the offense, I guess, is supposed to be their big like their engine, and Nolan Gorman, I guess, too. It's just, but all of these guys that they're penciling in as like sure things, I don't know if they're sure things because Goldschmidt took a step back. He's also like 36 years old. Arenado took a step back. He's on the wrong side of 30 and he's played a lot of baseball. Jordan Walker was not good. He was just a big name prospect. Sonny Gray was their big signing of the offseason. He's on the IL. Their starting rotation is a bunch of guys over 35, and like to somehow get rid of
Miles
Wainwright and to be
Miles
older is crazy.
Mikolas, Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn, Steven Matz, Zach Thompson.
Everybody there is old. So, and they lost Jordan Hicks. I mean, they're not going to be as bad as last year. I think we know that. They got last place. They won like, I don't even know, it's 70 games. I don't know, but they're not going to be that team. But I don't see where all this growth comes from. I mean, they still have Wilson Contreras as their catcher, right? Like, who is going to throw innings for this team? I don't see it. I'm on the under 85.5. 85 wins, again, that's more wins than you think. That would be like an almost 20 win improvement for a team that added Sonny Gray.
And they're not even reaping the full benefits of him.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
It's a lot of internal improvement and banking on internal improvement from young guys and guys who had down years, and that's a tough recipe to ask. Again, I think they'll be better. I don't think they're going to get last again, but betting them to win the division at plus 150 is horrible value. I have the Cubs in the 6-pack. The expectation for the Cubs is they have to make the playoffs. Barring some crazy bad luck injuries, they need to be a playoff team. I think they should win the division. But I think the ceiling of the Reds have the highest ceiling. So if everything clicks for the Reds, they could win it very easily. I would rather play the Reds at 4-1 than the Cardinals at plus 150 any day of the week.
They do have Matt McClain injured though. I'm not sure the news on that right now.
Yeah.
They need a lot of young talent to step up with. Obviously Ellie De La Cruz.
Hunter Green needs to have a good year.
Yeah.
They've got the youngest team. They've got the most athletic team. They're going to be just a pain in the ass to play because they're going to have a bunch of guys stealing 20 plus bags. I don't know. They
also have
Sean Manaea, I think. It's like their opening day starter.
No, Frankie Montas.
Or Frankie Montas, yeah.
Yeah. Both A's guys.
Yeah.
You know, they have Spencer Steer. They got Candelario through free agency. They have Christian Encarnacion Strachan. So a lot of young talent. They have Will Benson too, who was a former top prospect for the Guardians. So a lot of things where there's going to be some high variance. If a lot of guys play really well, this is a team that can win the division. But ultimately, I think they end up securing a wild card spot, and it looks like you feel the same way.
Yeah, I have them as a wild card team. So in my head, it's the Cubs, the Reds, the Cardinals, the Brewers, and the Pirates. And I don't think that the division's as bad as a lot of people say. I just think it lacks like a dominant team. I don't think the Pirates are really that bad at all. I mean, we like O'Neal Cruz. We like his home runs over. Paul Skeens will probably make a debut this year. Tamar Johnson, we loved him. We bet on him in the draft in 2022. I think he might debut this year or maybe next year. Like, they're going to be better in the future. They have some good prospects. They just extended Mitch Keller. They're going to be okay.
Brian Hayes is good. Yeah.
Brian Hayes, yeah. They're going to be better in the future. It's just not ready yet. And the Brewers are like 78 wins or something like that. Or maybe even, no, I think it's like lower 70s for wins. I know that they traded Burns. I know Woodruff's out for the year. I actually am more. I think I like them more than I like the Cardinals still.
Really?
Yeah, I know Devin Williams is hurt, so that kind of puts a damper on things.
That would be my biggest thing. The Devin Williams injury really, really hurts. I think they're going to get him back later in the year, but they really need him in those close one-run games. Freddie
I just
Peralta, though, I think he's going to make a huge jump. I think he's a dark horse for, I mean, not necessarily dark horse, but he's a guy who can contend for NL Cy Young. But yeah, they're going to really
yeah.
need, they're going to need a huge year out of him.
I mean, Freddie Peralta's at worst like second or third best pitcher in the division, and there would be people who would argue with us on that he's number one. Because I mean, the top three, you're gonna get in an argument with people. It's like Steele. I wouldn't put Sonny Gray, but some idiot might, and then Peralta.
Yeah. Yeah. And then maybe Hunter,
Mitch
Hunter
Keller.
Green.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't think there's a World Series team coming out of this division, but there's a lot of teams that are in the building process, and so it's kind of like an arms race, and we're seeing who out of this group of teams is making the best progress with their development, their prospects, their drafting. Um, Free agency obviously matters too, but I don't know. I like this Cubs team. I'm excited. That's all I got to say about that. I mean, well, I'm sure we'll have a ton of Cubs content once the season starts, but I've
Yeah.
counted they're over on 84 or 83 and a half wins. I've got like $100 on different books with boosts and everything on their division odds. Um, I don't know. I just think that they have a really solid floor if they stay healthy. Like it's hard for me to envision the bottom falling out on this team. And I don't. And here's the other big thing that we haven't mentioned really yet. And this is true for all teams. Kind of got to look at what team, if they suck in the first half of the year, would they sell? Would they sell players? If the Cubs are bad and it's July, they are not selling anyone. They don't really have anyone to sell besides Kyle Hendricks. And even then, they're not in sell mode. I don't think you're going to see that. Where like last year, we had to kind of wonder, is Stroman going to be on the team? Is insert like 17 guys going to be on Bellinger going to be on the team if they don't start out strong? There's none of that this year.
It could be possible with Bellinger, though. I guess,
Theoretically, yeah.
but there is also, I mean, with his opt out, if he does struggle and he doesn't think in the open market he can get that value, then he could just come back. So, but if his value's low, then they probably wouldn't trade him. I don't know. That's something to keep an eye on. But yeah, definitely, just like if there's a team where it's like if they're struggling and that they have a lot of guys to sell, maybe you should bet they're under right now, and kind of bank on
Yeah.
that, because once you
There's
start selling, that's when you're losing 8 out of 10 games in the month of August, and that's really how you get that under.
Yeah,
So
that's when you see a team go from like 5 games under to 20 games under between July and September. That's when like watching a team like the A's turns into an automatic win. Like
yep,
the second you have any player who's having a good year or you have any bullpen, because bullpen every team ends up having 1 or 2 decent bullpen guys, then they sell them and the bottom falls out. And that bad team or that average team goes to bad or from bad to really, really bad. And that's when you start seeing all these teams start going on runs one way or the other.
yep. Yep, I totally agree. One other thing I want to talk about in this division, Jackson Chourio, the top prospect for the Brewers. He made their roster, 8-year, $82 million extension. He's only 20 years old, plays center field. I think right behind Yamamoto, he's the second best favorite to win the NL Cy Young. So he's down to like plus 550. I have some 10-1 on him. So I think he's got some promise there. So yeah, Brewers, you lost Craig Counsell. You got to watch him win a World Series with the Cubs within the next couple years, but at least you have that to hang your hat on.
Yep.
Okay, last division, NL West. So we have the Dodgers minus 600, Padres 11-1, D-backs 11-1, Giants 12-1, and Rockies 200-1.
I think I know your
we
feelings on this, but I just want to hear you
yeah
say it. What are your thoughts on the D-backs? Because they're kind of the X factor of the division.
Yeah, they're going to be awful this year. They're going to be a team that's not going to play well. I do not see them making the playoffs. I do see Corbin Carroll having an all-time great year, though. He's going to have a ton of steals. He is a generational talent. Last year on the podcast, I mocked you because you said that he was already in the Hall of Fame or something along those lines, and he
Yeah.
ended up having a great year. So he's awesome, but Ketel Marte, Gurriel Jr., Christian Walker, Jock Peterson, that does not seem like that great of a team to me. They have Zach Gallen, who's a good pitcher, but not like all-time elite. Merrill Kelly, Brandon Pfaadt, Eduardo
Yeah.
Rodriguez. Like, this team is just not that impressive to me. And you look at the Padres or the Giants, and those teams from top to bottom, I think, are a lot better. And those are the teams contending for that
You
second
like the
spot. Because it's
Giants more than the D-backs?
yes, I do.
I won't go that far. We are
Really,
Corbin Carroll pod. We are
we
pro
are a
Corbin
Corbin Carroll
Carroll.
pod.
I think if I could handpick any guy to be a Cub, it would probably be him. Outside of the top 2 or 3 best players, I would probably pick him. I just think he's the most fun. I think he's the most scary player to face, besides maybe like Acuna or like a Soto or someone like that. Like, because the second he gets on base through a walk or a single, it's automatically a double because he steals second. His
Yeah,
stolen base over under is like 50 bags. Like, that is insane value. He's a good defender. He seems like a good dude, and he's just a pure hitter. And he does it from the left side, right? So it I don't know. I think that's like incredibly valuable. I think he's like a 6 WAR player every year that he's healthy. So yeah, I think he's a future Hall of Famer. I don't think that they're the team that I like outside of the Dodgers is the Padres. Obviously, getting Dylan Cease helps that a ton. I think Tatis Jr. is going to have a big year. Um, I think his career is already tainted with the PED stuff, but I do think he's going to have a strong year. And I think that if you're going to play someone down the board a little bit for MVP, I might go that way. He is going to be primarily in the outfield now, so that'll reduce some of those ugly errors that ended up on like the not top 10. Um, but
yeah.
I think we're both on the Padres plus 200 to make the playoffs, just to be a wild card team. I don't think that's unrealistic.
Yeah, so we got that about a month ago. It's down to plus 125 right now, which are probably fair odds. They got Bogarts, Cronenworth, Machado. They have the rookie
Kim is really
Yeah,
yeah.
Sung Kim. And then they have Jackson Merrill, a rookie who made the opening day roster. I think he had 2 hits in that second game against the Dodgers. Hit one off the top of the wall. It's almost got his first career home run, but
Yeah, Joe
that's a
Musgrove is
guy.
underrated.
Joe Musgrove, Darvish, Cease. I don't know. I don't expect too much out of you, Darvish. I think his best days are behind him, but that's still a guy,
Yeah,
if he pulls it together, can win you some games.
he's good. Probably one dominant start a month, and that's nice to
Yeah.
have. I mean, also they're going to be playing the Rockies a lot, who are one of the worst teams, maybe the worst team. They might even be worse than the A's. So that's some wins right there. Um, what's interesting about the Diamondbacks is on paper they're like the same exact team that went to the World Series, except for they added Eduardo Rodriguez from the Tigers and like one other bat. So like it does feel weird to be like, yeah, they're not that good, but they also made the division by like or the playoffs even by 1 game and got really hot. And like if the Cubs didn't collapse for that 1 week, that was the Cubs playoff spot. So like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of like how much do you ride that postseason success as like real, or was it kind of fluky and they just like played out of their ass for 2 weeks?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, you mentioned you don't like the Giants. Do you not like their like lineup? Because pitching, they have Logan Webb, Blake Snell, potential NL Rookie of the Year, Kyle Harrison, Jordan Hicks. But batting, they have Jung Ho Lee, their big signing of the offseason with
Yeah,
Snell,
you just
Estrada,
paused for a
Wade.
second trying to think of like what offense. Jung Ho Lee hasn't proven anything. Um, he could easily be like that dude on the Red Sox last year, who was like this the comp for him. I don't even
Yoshida. I
yeah,
loved betting against Yoshida in the AL Rookie of the Year.
yeah. Like I don't know. Like he got more money than anyone thought he would get. So I don't know. I like Kyle Harrison. I know we're both on that 25 to 1. He's and a lot of that we like about it is that he's a rookie on the opening day roster in the rotation. That's very, very rare that a rookie starts out in the rotation with like holding down a legit job in the top five. So um, that's nice. Obviously, the Blake Snell thing, obviously, that's a big move. I'm curious how him and Montgomery will look after basically sitting out all spring training. I mean,
Yeah,
Montgomery's gonna
it's
maybe not throw a pitch till like May at this rate, and how is he gonna look? He missed all of camp. He's gonna do like simulated Arizona batting practice, go to a minor league start, and then go. It's all weird to me. I don't. It rubs me the wrong way. Um, it is a pitcher friendly park. I just don't love their lineup.
Giants magic though. They just find ways to win. They have the
It's an
culture
even
that the
year.
White Sox want.
It's
It
an
is an
even
even year.
year.
Yeah.
The
So
Padres'
yeah,
new manager is Mike Schilt, right?
yeah.
And then who's the Giants manager?
They got Bob Melvin from the
Okay, that's right.
Padres.
So Bob Mel went from the Padres to the Giants. That's kind of a good storyline. So there's that and Council, same division moving over.
Yeah. Yeah. So that division will be pretty competitive in terms of who's going to make the wild card, but the Dodgers are probably going to win 105 games and close that out there. So
Hey, they're
that
one and
that's
one
kind
right
of
now. They're a 500 team right now. Last I checked.
that's true. That's true. The Rockies, the only note I had on them, and we can kind of go into our futures here. Is there a sadder individual living on human earth who makes $27 million per year than Chris Bryant?
Dude, he's that
I'm not saying
cornball.
I'm not saying he's actually sad, but
I know what
you'd
you're
be
saying.
happier anywhere else making 27 million.
He is that type of individual that would say some corny bullshit like, my family is really happy here. Um, blah blah blah. It's a really great like, dude. Shut. He actually like had a quote where he was like, "I didn't realize the Rockies farm system was this bad." He's like, "I thought they had some talent coming up." It's like, did you not do any research? This isn't like the
Apparently
Orioles where
not.
you could look and be like, "Oh, they have 5 of the top 10 next best players." Like it wasn't like that. They had like one or two solid guys, but every farm has one or two future decent players on it. Like that's just mathematically how it usually goes. I don't know. It never made any sense. That whole move was ridiculous. But yeah, he's wasting his career, but he's getting paid. So I hope he's happy because that's what he wanted all along. See ya.
He won an MVP. He won a Rookie of the Year. He won a World Series.
He had a couple
And
solid years after that, but it was never the same.
no,
Ever
he'll
since
never
he
win. Yeah,
ever since he got hit in the face in like May of 2018, it fell off because if you look at his 2017, his numbers were statistically better than his MVP year. He just hit a few less home runs, and the Cubs struggled in the first half. But then they end up making the NLCS. He has an awesome season, like a 6-something WAR season. And then 2018, he gets hit in the face while he was on having the best month of his career. He comes back from that, looks like shit. Then he hurts his shoulder, looks like shit. Makes an All-Star game, but was not the same player. And then we all know what happened. Like he just kind of sucked the last 2 years.
yep,
So
yeah. I'd be surprised if he ever makes like if I set his over under at All Star appearances at 1.5. I think he can get one more. I can't see him making two more.
yeah,
We'll see.
the MLB has that rule that like one player from each team has to be an all-star. And so it's like, who the hell is it going to be from the Rockies?
That's true.
They only have so many players. I mean, there's somebody's got to be it. I think he might get one. Yeah, two is asking a lot. I mean, that would make him like a 6-time all-star or 5-time like that would end up making it look like he had just like some really good career. And like he did have a really good career, even if he retired today, but it's not what he was hyped up to be. I mean, he was like the best player in college baseball, the best player in the minor leagues, the best player as a rookie, the MVP. Like he hit like every single benchmark for like 4 consecutive years, and then
I
wins a
think
World Series.
you forgot best player on the Las Vegas Lightning too.
Yes, the best player in the Las Vegas Lightning. But
Yeah, I'm looking at this Rockies lineup. There's nobody who deserves an all-star berth of what I'm seeing. So it's probably going to be some random reliever who
yeah,
has like a great year.
it gets
'Cause
traded like right after the All-Star game.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that is a bad team. But yeah, so that's our preview for the AL, the NL. So we kind of have to close the show here. We have futures that we bet where there's no longer value. We just kind of want to get these out here
We
and just
just wanna
show you
brag
like
and rub it in your
yeah,
guys' face how
yeah.
well we did.
One, we want to brag, but two, also just like the importance of like these early lines, like keeping an eye on things. Cause like Slade, you and I have talked about these awards probably like every other day for the past 2 months, just checking prices, looking to see like, hey, is he trending to make the roster? Because if a guy is going to make the roster, for example, this random guy, let me find his name here. Sadane Rafaela, if I'm saying that right, for the Red Sox. He was 66 to 1 to win AL Rookie of the Year, but yesterday it was just announced that he made the roster. I got him at 66. He's now down to 25 to 1. Is he actually going to win? Probably not, but I like just throwing a few bucks on it and having it in pocket because you never really know who's going to win this award. Jackson Holiday is a huge favorite, but that does not mean that he's going to win because considering he's not even on the team yet. So, uh, yeah. So I want to get into my futures here, where I guess let's give our futures. Let's give our official plays first. So these are plays where they're the price is still available. They are going to be in the 6 pack. We'll be posting them. These are something where we feel comfortable giving these out to you. So if you bet them responsibly, we think this is a smart move. So I'll go ahead and read these off here, and Slade, feel free to interrupt because I know a few of these are yours. First one I have is Yankees to miss the playoffs at plus 172. That's my play. I just think that's good value. I think you can also wait a little bit throughout the year because the Yankees tax. So plus 172 for that. We both kind of like the Guardians to win the division, so I'm putting a quarter unit on them at plus 330 to win the AL Central. We have O'Neal Cruz to have over 25 and a half home runs at minus 122. And I also have Cody Bellinger over 23 and a
Oof.
half home runs at minus
Yeah.
120.
I got
That's
I
me
said
betting that because if he doesn't have 24, that is a complete disaster in my
yeah,
book.
I got O'Neal Cruz at 23.5. That was a one that was important to shop because the number I got on FanDuel and the number I got on ESPN Bet were very different. So, I think I don't know if it's just worked out for the guys I like or what, but ESPN Bet has been very generous for some of the guys I like. I guess me and ESPN Bet just see the board different. Um, I think I found a lot of value on ESPN Bet I couldn't find on MGM or Caesars or FanDuel or DraftKings. So if you want to find a book that is maybe not as popular, but it's legit. It's run through Penn Gaming. They used to be with like Barstool and everything. So give them a look too if you're looking for some of these futures.
Yeah, I think some of these newer books may be a little looser in terms of odds because they
They don't
want
update
more
as quick, I
customers.
think.
Yeah, that's another big thing too. A couple other plays here. I have Marlins under 77 and a half wins. Sandy Alcantara is out for the year. Yuri Perez is hurt. Their pitching is not great. I'm going the under there. I have CJ Abrams. He's was their top prospect for the Padres that came over to the Nationals in the Soto trade. So I have over 36 and a half stolen bases for him at minus 110. I have the Rockies under at 59 and a half, as we just talked about. They're awful. We have the Cardinals under 85 and a half and the Rangers under 89 and a half. Slade, you talked pretty extensively about those during the previews.
Yep.
And then you also have Soto MVP and Nico Horner Gold Glove plus 130 to close things out.
Soto is going to the short porch, left-handed bat. He had a really good year last year. I think it kind of went under the radar. I don't think he started out super hot, and he's always been really patient. So he maybe doesn't get as many home runs or as much slugging, but he takes just a ton of walks. But I think if he's at Yankee Stadium and he's got Judge in front of him, like people can't pitch around him anymore. People are gonna have to respect him because I mean, even if you avoid him, okay, there's Rizzo, there's Stanton. I think he's gonna get a lot more pitches to hit. and then you're going to put him in a ballpark that is just going to get. I mean, he's never going to have an easy. I mean, you go from the Padres, which is very pitcher friendly, to the easiest place to hit home runs. I think he can jack up those power numbers. 6-1. I don't love that number. I wish it was closer to 10, but it feels fair, and sometimes that's all it needs to be, is to feel fair. And then Nico Horner. To baseball junkies, to people, baseball purists, Nico Horner is just one of the smoothest players in the league. If you look at his batting stats, you won't understand really why he's a 4.5 WAR player. He steals bases, and he's an awesome glove, and he can move around the diamond. But plus 130 for him to win the Gold Glove is basically plus 130 for him to stay healthy, and that for some National League second baseman to not come out of nowhere. The biggest risk there is honestly that maybe Dansby gets hurt and then he moves over to shortstop and then he's not eligible for the second base award or something like that. He's that good that he should have won it in 2022. That was criminal. But the other risk, I guess, is the human element of voting. I mean, we all know Yadier Molina probably got a few Gold Gloves he did not deserve, and that's just a fact.
Yeah. No, that definitely is true. A lot of moving pieces in terms of Gold Gloves, but I do think there's definitely good value at plus money there. So those are our official plays. I'll have them added to the 6-pack, and we'll make sure to link that like we always do. It's on our Twitter. It'll be in each episode description. So feel free to check those out. Make sure to get those bets in by opening day, which is Thursday, the 28th. A lot of these win totals, though, a lot of these awards, you can get them in all throughout the season. So if you want to wait a little bit, maybe try to get a better price, that's totally up to you, and I think could be the smart move. We also have a lot of other futures where we have way different numbers in the market, a lot of them better, a couple of them a little bit worse, but a lot of them we got great value. I have so many here. I think I'm just going to tweet out a screenshot of all this, but I can kind of just give you high level ones I really like. NL Rookie of the Year, I got Jackson Merrill 40-1. He's down to 11-1. I got in the AL, I got Wyatt Langford 5-1. He's down to plus 250. AL Cy Young, I have Tariq Skubal 15-1. He's down to 10-1. NL MVP, I have O'Neal Cruz. We both do at 100-1. He's down to 65-1. And just for fun, I threw a couple bucks on O'Neal Cruz to lead the league in home runs, 200-1. He's down to 60-1. And same with Austin Riley. I got him 50-1, and he's down to 19-1. I know one of Will Hill's plays on his podcast, he felt really strong about Evan Phillips, the Dodgers closer, to lead the league in saves at 40-1. He's already had 1 through 2 games. He's down to 15-1. So something to keep an eye on there. And then also we had the Padres plus 200 to make the playoffs. So Slade, I know you have a couple. Is there any other ones you want to touch on?
I got Corbin Burns for plus 800 or plus 900. He's down to plus 800. Strider for plus 550. It's now down to plus 450. The one that I kind of messed up on was Jackson Holiday. I got him at plus 300. He's now plus 450. But that's because Wyatt Langford made the team out of camp and he didn't. It's not a huge deal. Honestly, I think there might be value now on Holiday. I'm not going to double down or anything, but for the listeners at plus 450, it's not a bad bet. Especially if he's playing shortstop, he's going to rack up a lot of WAR. He's got the name factor with his dad. And if the Orioles do win the division like we think, and the Rangers go under their win total like we think, Jackson Holiday plus 450 is not bad. I think he's going to be a stud, but he's also significantly younger than a lot of these other guys. So that's the downside there. God, what else do I have here? I know we both love Kyle Harrison 25-1. I think he's down to 14-1 some places, 20-1 on some other places. That's
one thing we want to touch on here, though, is we do not believe Yamamoto is going to win NL Rookie of the Year. So he got rocked in his first start. I I don't think that necessarily hurts him. It's just one start, but I
It's going
just,
to be hard to get that ERA down, though.
he's going to need to have a better year than Strider back when Michael Harris beat him out. That's not going to be easy to do. And I just think that's a lot to ask.
I agree. NL Rookie of the Year is wide open. It's wide open because like Merrill a month ago was not really on people's radars. Churio is 20, and from what I understand, his bat isn't as developed as his glove. I think it's a little bit of a PCA type thing where he's still working out some kinks. And I think that's kind of true for a lot of these guys is they're not totally ready yet, but if you're not breaking the team out of camp, it makes it a lot harder to even get the like volume of reps to put up stats to win this award. So that's what's moved the market so much these last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yep. And so a lot of like the Rookie of the Year, like you said, it's about getting reps. So a lot of these guys may start slow and then June comes around and they really start hitting, whereas some of these guys might not get pulled up till June. So maybe they're not playing well until July. Is that enough time to come back? I guess that's up to your discretion. But we'll obviously be having these conversations all throughout the year. With baseball, it's really hard to just bet on singular games. So we'll probably be tweeting some plays out if we feel strongly about them. But most of the official six-pack plays, the futures we gave, but then also throughout the year, we'll just be checking on awards, and if there's some value, we'll be giving those out as well. Similar to how we got Gunnar Henderson. I think it was at like plus 220 with a couple months left in the season last year.
Yeah. Couple words of advice, Cubs related. Do not bet Matt Mervis Rookie of the Year. It's not happening. I don't care how big the number is. Don't bet PCA. I don't think that's going to happen. If you're going to bet somebody from the Cubs, we like Matt Bush. I threw $5 on it. He's 30-1. He was the best hitter in the minor leagues last year. He's 26 years old. So, like, I think some of it is like he doesn't have the shine because he's not like on some awesome all-time great trajectory. Like he's already 26. But that might mean that he comes in and is like more ready to go than these other guys. Like they might have better careers. He might have a better rookie year. So
yeah, even mentally being a 26-year-old compared to a 20, 21-year-old, I think that gives you pretty good heads up. So I don't like Michael Bush to win the award, but I think he's going to make a big impact for this Cubs team, and I don't want that trade to go under the radar. So
yeah, 30-1 is that's a lot for a guy. There's only probably like a dozen guys that are rookies, like rookie eligible on a major league team in each league. So like if you have one of them right there, I feel like you're already at a huge advantage.
Yep, I agree. And to close the show, just a reminder, we have merch available. We have that linked on our Twitter. It's on an Etsy shop. We'll have someone come on for an official review of the merch in the coming weeks as it gets delivered and they try it on. Obviously, honest review. Hopefully, this Etsy shop is letting us down. From what I've seen, it's been some good product. So please give that a look. We have shirts, sweatshirts, mugs. We got some swim trunks and blankets. So that's something you can bring to your beach vacation this upcoming summer. But and then lastly, speaking of PCA, we still are going to have our merch giveaway for a t-shirt once PCA gets a hit, his first career hit. He is still going to be playing AAA to start the year. So Lord only knows when that's going to happen, but we will eventually be giving away some merch for that. So more info to come there. But Slade, I thought this was a really good deep dive into the MLB. Really enjoyed this. We'll keep touching base throughout the year and having check-ins about kind of how things are doing. I think what a lot of shows do is maybe like at the quarter pole and the halfway point, three-quarter pole, like that's kind of when it's good to check in and check on to see how are these teams doing in one-run games, who is the best bullpen, who's got the best hitters, what's the highest strikeout rate versus home run rate, like how are these teams doing? So we'll have plenty of those moments. And like I said at the beginning of this pod, this is something where, if you want to go back and re-listen to some of this or click around, we're going to have all the chapters and all the comments saying, when you can, if you want to go back and look at the NL East, you'll have the timestamps on here. So this will be good for the next month or so. Feel free to come back. Let us tweet at us. Let us know if you agree or disagree. And yeah, we love baseball. We're glad it's back. There's nothing better than, every night there's something on your TV. Slade, I don't know about you, but like these Cubs games, like, you win a game, you feel great, you can go out again tomorrow. But if you lose, you don't have to wait a week like the NFL. It's like, let's go. Like
Yeah.
tomorrow at we have a noon game. Like let's go beat the Reds.
Yeah, losing a game and then having an off day the next day always just drives me nuts. I don't know why. Just
Yeah.
like that 48 hours of sitting with it. It is awesome. We both have MLB TV this year. So maybe we'll try to find some teams or players that um, I know like Bill Simmons always talks about like his NBA League Pass team. Maybe we'll try to find some guys. Maybe we'll tune in to every Corbin Carroll at bat. I don't know. We'll try to find something fun to do. What that's not Cubs related using that application. So
Yeah, definitely. But all right, thank you for listening, everybody. This has been another episode of Bet GPT.